Our next shape is a trapezoid. Remember a trapezoid? Trapezoid kind of looks like a lampshade, right? Has that one pair of parallel sides. And so area of a trapezoid is going to be, let's see, how can I write it here? I'm going to write it in the box. Base plus base times height divided by 2. Or you might see it like this, B1 plus B2 times H divided by 2. It's the same thing. We're going to add up the two bases, times it by the height, and then divide by 2. So this little example here has two bases. One is 14, and the other one is 30, I think, is going to add it. So we would add up 14 plus 30 times the height, which is 15, and then divided by 2. Or 44 times 15 divided by 2. Calculator is the best, but if you don't have one, you could do 44 divided by 2 is 22. And 22 times 15 is what? I don't even know. 22 times 15. 330 it looks like. Yep, so it can be done, folks, without a calculator. What's nice about these problems is for some reason they don't have a lot of units. So I can just do the numbers. 11 plus 15 times 7 divided by 2. 26 times 7 divided by 2 is going to be the same thing as 13 times 7, which is 91. The trapezoid is sideways, that's okay. Those are still the two bases. 13 plus 19 times 14 divided by 2. So 32 times 14 divided by 2. Maybe I'll just make that 32 times 7, which is 224. Yeah. You've done this before in middle school for sure. This one's got even nicer numbers. 10 plus 6 times 8 divided by 2. 16 times 8 divided by 2. Or 16 times 4, or 64. As always, we'll have a harder one where it's got units we have to convert. So 2 yards is the same thing as 6 feet. So 3 plus 5, base plus base, times height divided by 2. Or 8 times 6 divided by 2, which is 24 feet squared. Here, if I add those up, 17 plus 7 times h divided by 2, this is going to equal 132. Or 24 times h divided by 2 is 132. 12h equals 132. If I divide both sides by 12, what do I get? 12 times 11, I believe. H equals 11 inches. Yep. So it's a lot about showing your work, I think, with these. People want to do them so much in their head, but it's always better to show your work. Times 8 divided by 2 equals 92. 9 plus b times 4 equals 92. And I could distribute the 4, but I'm going to divide both sides by 4. This is going to be 23. So then b is equal to, if I subtract 9 from both sides, 14 meters. Or what we call kind of plug and chug problems. Now these last ones get a little bit tougher, okay? Here the height is missing, right? We don't know it, and so it says equation to solve for h. Do you remember what kind of formula we use for right triangles? Yep. Good old Pythagorean theorem. So 24 squared, isn't that 576? And 40 squared, isn't that 1600? Let me see. 14 squared, 24 squared is, yep, 576. And then 40 squared is, yep, 1600. If I subtract 576 from both sides, this is going to turn out to be a perfect square. All right, square root of that turns out to be 32. And there was no units. So that's a 32 there. So when I do my base plus base, remember that other extra part there is 28 because it matches the 28 at the top. So that's going to be 52. So I got 52 plus 28 times 32 divided by 2. 52 plus 28, so that's going to be 80 times 16. I just did the 32 divided by 2. And the final answer here is 1280. Yikes, that was big numbers. Let's try one with a little bit of smaller numbers here. I like this one better. 8 squared plus 8 squared equals 17 squared. So 8 squared plus 64 is 289. If I subtract 64 from both sides, you should probably recognize this, right? H equals 15. So here I've got to add these up. 11 plus 25 plus 8 is 44. And then the other base was 25, right? So base plus base times height divided by 2. And sometimes you just want to write that all in your calculator at once, right? Times 15 divided by 2. I'm just typing that in my calculator now. Let me see. 44 plus 25 times 15, and then divided by 2. I got 517.5. So those numbers were a little bit crazy, but that's how you do it. Pythagorean theorem to find the height, and then just same old base plus base times height divided by 2. The last ones are these total area or shaded area. Here the trapezoids are both the same, 30 plus 10 times 7 divided by 2. And that turns out to be 140 inches squared. I have two of the exact same ones. We add for the total 280 inches squared. Here isn't my rectangle 8 times 5 or 40. The trapezoid here would be 8 plus 3 times, do you agree that the height here is 2 because 2 plus 5 is 7? So that's 11 centimeters squared. And when I add that up, 51 centimeters squared. Area of the rectangle here, 11 times 7 is 77. Area of the trapezoid, I'm just doing 8 plus 6 is 14 times 5 divided by 2. And that turns out to be 35. And anything shaded, what do? Add or subtract? Right, subtract. 42 centimeters squared. So there we have it, area of a trapezoid.